Deputies learned those kids were just between the ages of 12 and 14 years old, and they tried robbing a man with a gun.
These YNs are out here wiling out like life is a Grand Theft Auto video game. But they just found out the hard way that not everyone is defenseless. And definitely not in Texas.
Deputies say at least 3 of those kids were shot. One of them is still in critical condition at last check. When Harris County Sheriff deputies showed up here, they found one of the kids with several gunshot wounds. He was taken to a nearby trauma center in critical condition, as I just mentioned. And as paramedics were tending to him, 2 other kids were found with gunshot wounds. Both were taken to the hospital and are stable. Shortly after that, the suspected shooter, who deputies believe the teens were trying to rob, returned to the scene and turn himself in.
Let's get straight to it. Like, what kind of world are we living in where a group of 12 to 14-year-olds think it's a good idea to rob someone at gunpoint? And I already know what some people are gonna say. This is why we need more gun control. But let me stop you before you start. We're in Texas, a state that is about as pro-2A as it gets. Even here, there is no legal way for a 12-year-old to get a gun. None. These kids either stole these guns or got them off the street. So what gun law exactly is going to stop a kid like this? There isn't one. Gun laws don't stop people who already are breaking the law. What they do is disarm law-abiding citizens who end up being the targets of people like this. Now imagine if this man didn't have a gun. We wouldn't be talking about how these kids got their hands on firearms. We'd be talking about how an innocent man was killed in a parking lot on Christmas Day.
The incident occurred due to an attempted aggravated robbery that involved the juveniles attempting to rob the adult male. During the incident, the juveniles approached the male and they were displaying pistols. The adult male retrieved his own pistol and shot the juveniles.
This man didn't ask for this. He didn't wake up and think, you know what? I'm gonna have to shoot a group of teens today. But when your life is on the line, you don't have the luxury of thinking about the ages of your attackers. You have to defend yourself, period. The anti-gun crowd likes to say no one needs guns, but tell that to this man who was facing 3 armed attackers in the middle of a parking lot, and he needed a gun, and thank God he had one. It's easy for people to say he shouldn't have shot them, but let's be real. When someone's pointing a gun at you, you're not gonna stop and ask for their birth certificate. You're gonna act to save your life. That's what he did. Gun laws didn't stop these kids from getting guns, and more gun laws wouldn't have stopped them either. Why? Because criminals, yes, even 12-year-olds, don't follow gun laws. These kids didn't walk into a gun store and pass a background check. They didn't fill out a Form 4473. They got their guns illegally, plain and simple. The anti-gun lobby keeps saying we need universal background checks, but tell me, what background check would have stopped these kids? What waiting period? What red flag law? None of these would have made a difference because these kids weren't following the law to begin with. And here's the kicker. The only reason this story didn't end in a tragedy for the victim is because he had a gun. If he didn't, he would have been just another statistic, another headline about a robbery gone wrong. Now, this isn't just about self-defense. It's about reality. We live in a world where bad people exist, and sometimes these bad people are kids, and sometimes they're armed. No law is going to change that. The only thing that changes the outcome is whether or not the intended victim has the means to defend themselves. This man didn't just defend himself against one attacker either. He defended himself against multiple attackers, all of them armed, all of them with the intent to rob him. That's why the Second Amendment exists. It's not about hunting. It's not about sport shooting. It's about the right to defend your life when no one else is there to do it for you.
Investigators say this whole thing happened late last night. So on Christmas Day, they tell us that 3 to 5 kids who were aged 12 to 15 years old tried to rob a man by gunpoint right here in the parking lot, which is where those children live, according to neighbors.
He screamed out help, so I ran down there to, see what I could do to help him. And I took one look at his face, and I'm like, this is a baby. It's a child, and my mind went all over the place at that point.
These kids didn't magically decide to pick up guns one day. This behavior comes from somewhere. The question isn't how did they get the guns? The question is, why are they trying to rob someone at gunpoint in their own neighborhood on Christmas? At 12 years old, you're supposed to be playing with toys, riding bikes, not using a gun to rob someone on Christmas. This goes beyond failure as a parent. This is neglect, maybe even intentional neglect. We've allowed certain parts of our society to degenerate so badly that this kind of behavior is no longer shocking. It's disgusting. And instead of addressing the root causes, parenting, community breakdown, lack of accountability, we just keep passing gun laws that do nothing but make life harder for law-abiding gun owners. And let me remind you about something. Even when you're in the right, there's no guarantee the system will treat you fairly. The media called him the shooter, not the victim, but the shooter. That label alone can change how people see this case, even though he was defending himself. And this is why I always say, man, get some type of concealed carry insurance, like the kind you get from USCCA, which is sponsoring today's video. Because even in pro-2A states like Texas, you could still end up in court spending thousands of dollars defending your right to defend yourself, which is why USCCA sponsors this channel. And I also love USCCA because they are comprehensive. It's not just about the concealed carry insurance that you get through their membership. It's also about the information and the training that you get from USCCA as well. So I'm gonna put a link in the description section for you to check out USCCA if you want more information. And even if you don't go with USCCA, go with something. Don't go with nothing, go with something. At the end of the day, the story isn't about guns. It's about self-defense. It's about a man who had to make a split decision to save his life. It's about the reality that gun laws don't stop criminals. They only disarm the good guys. If you want to stop seeing stories like this, we need to focus on the real issues. Why kids like this are running around with guns in the first place. Blaming the gun is just a lazy way to avoid addressing the bigger problem. Oh, and another problem, protecting your hearing. I know a lot of people like to go out to the range and shoot, and they tend to think of hearing protection as an afterthought. I implore you, don't do that. You want to protect your hearing the best way possible, which is why I love the AKT1 blackouts. These right here are my absolute favorite in-ear wireless Bluetooth hearing protection. Now, you could just go the route of just regular ear pro and just little foamies that you put in your ear. The funny thing is those actually do a very good job of protecting your hearing. However, it protects them to such a degree you can't hear shit. So this is why I love the AKT ones. You get the protection of being able to protect your hearing while at the same time I can listen to music, I can take a phone call, I can still hear my surroundings around me, because unlike those foamies that you put in your ear, these have active noise blocking, which means once sound reaches a certain decibel level that is unsafe, it clips it so that you get no damage to your hearing. On top of that, you still get to have your situational awareness with the pass-through hearing aspect of these two as well. So I love these things. I'm about to go to the range right now and film some video and do some shooting, and I'm gonna take these with me like I always do. I have multiple pair. Now, right now, hit the link in the description section and check these out. Because I'm telling you, these, when it comes to shooting, these are my favorite thing to have. One thing's for certain and two things are for sure. Politicians and tech giants don't want gun content to be recommended to you. And we're all fighting this culture war together. Now you can help do your part by liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel, but most importantly, sharing this video with at least one person. Together we can stop the suppression of our 2A rights. And don't forget to click the link in the description section of this video for the products that I mentioned in this video.